Okay. Hi, everybody. So, I don't know, do you hear me clearly?
Yes, clear.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Very good.
So I think this is late afternoon in Hanoi, and I think that is noon time in Europe, right? Yeah, I think there must be many people on their way home, or maybe lunchtime in Europe. Okay, hope you are not very tired after two sessions uh, on a pretty, I can say, pretty difficult topic, blockchain. Yeah, not easy to listen, but very interesting. Okay, we just heard eight, eight presentation at the section one and section two with a lot of content relating to the technological and application aspect of the blockchain. I think all the presentation is very, very impressive and plenty of information from technical issue, trend perspectives, from technical experts to policymakers. A lot of useful information for those who are researching or interested in the hottest and I can say the most mysterious topic of the fourth industrial revolution, blockchain. Okay, I see here many of them, most of them is from Vietnam, right? I don't know where the author. Okay, I myself and all the audience really hope that the conference organizer will say the presentation. Absolutely, now I did not receive any presentation from the authors, but I hope maybe this starting point only. Okay, in this session three, we can talk about the story of sustainable development in the context of digitalization. Very, very hot topic. Okay. Hi, Job correction, right? Okay.
Hello.
Okay. After its presentation, now we talk something more detail about what happened, with us organization. We listen to three more presentations by the authors from the New Zealand and Vietnam. Okay, maybe we should come direct. We try to keep each presentation in maybe 30 minutes, maybe 20 minutes of presentation, and maybe the 10 minutes for Q&A. Okay, so we come direct to the the first presentation, blockchain and organization. Okay, I would like to introduce Mr. Jock Carrison, right, from Southern University of the Applied Science in New Zealand. Okay, please go ahead.
Okay, but you must disable my screen sharing. You disabled my screen sharing.
So I don't know. What about? I'm not.
I have not the possibility to share my screen now. I see.
Me too. So
host disabled participant screen sharing.
Yeah, anybody can have. Who is the host? I don't see the name of the people can have us. Is there anybody from the organizer? You can set the policy from the participant.
I cannot. It's not enabled.
I know. Because of disabled participant screen sharing.
Host disabled participant screen sharing.
Yeah. Is anybody from organizer, Mr. Fanang or Mr. Hoàng Anh Phạm? Can you help us? No, you see that all of us is participant.
Oh. I look to its reactions. No. The host must enable my screen sharing. So I don't know who's the host.
Yeah, me too. I asked Dr. Pham Anh. Can you help us?
Thanks for it.
Yeah.
Excuse me, could you try please again to share your screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
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 Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, let's start.
Yeah. So you can see my screen on this moment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Then I started with my presentation.
Okay.
Welcome to my presentation. My presentation is about blockchain and health from an organizational perspective. First, I will introduce myself. My name is George Karretsen. I'm a lecturer of the school, Saxion University of Applied Science. I work for the School of Commerce and Entrepreneurship and accompanied students with this thesis. Second, I'm a lecturer in business economics and in business administrations. This is also my background. My background is in the economic side and the administration side of the business. In 2020, I started my PhD track, and my PhD track is, you can see, is on the blockchain in health, the healthcare. In 2020, I realized my first publication with the title Healthcare Governance Design in Blockchain. Article is published in the International Journal of Applied Science, and it is a peer-reviewed article. So you can find it on the internet, or when you Google on the title Healthcare Governance Design in Blockchain, you will reach this publication. This was my first publication to get to see what in the field of healthcare governance is published. To start my PhD track, I've written a systematic literature review, and the systematic literature review is about implementation of blockchain solutions in healthcare and the adoption of it. The systematic literature review will be published at the end of June 2021 in a book of Professor Jan Veuger about blockchain applications in healthcare. At the June 2021, there will be another publication, and that's my first study of my PhD track. It's about the implementation of blockchain solutions and the adoption of it, and more the organizational side of it. I will use blockchain as a technology to apply digital transformation. So digital transformation is an important subject in the healthcare, and I like to investigate this with blockchain. Yes. Yeah. This is my presentation about. I give a short presentation about the first results of my systematic literature review, and my objective as a researcher is to give insights regarding the use of blockchain in healthcare and initiatives and implementation phases of blockchain solutions. These insights give me information about the influence of blockchain as a digital transformation tool in organizations. It's important. There's a gap. I see a gap in the literature about blockchain in organizations. And more the organizational perspective is an important issue to implement a blockchain solution. So this is my objective and my research fields. Yes. On this sheet, you see visualized the selection process to get relevant data to my systematic literature review. I have used the Scopus database. You can see on the left side. Yeah, I've used the Scopus database and selected the relevant publications by a query. The first result you see were 374 publications, and 374 publications you see, and I have limited on journals, and Express English journals. From 2010 till 2020. 2010 was the first year that scientific information was available about blockchain. So that's why I've choose 2010. I have a screening on the publications after reading the abstracts, and this was a result that 38 publications were significant relevant to my research. Okay. I have in my systematic literature review, I have mentioned four research questions. And the first is, what is the development of implementations of blockchain in recent years? Within the healthcare organization. The second question is, what are the main trends of implementations of blockchain within the healthcare organizations? The third research question was, what allocations is visible within the stages of adoption in blockchain solutions in healthcare organizations? And the last question was, what factors are considered in the adoption of blockchain solutions in healthcare? So, 4 research questions to do relevant research. Now, for the last question, what factors are considered in adoption of blockchain? I have used the TOA framework. And this TOA framework, I will see you. This is the TOA framework to get insights to in the adoption process. You see you see the environmental elements, you see the organization elements, and you see the technology elements. Environmental is about the surroundings, the impact of healthcare is the organization perspective, and you see digital transformation as the technology perspective. So this framework I needed to get more information about the adoption of blockchain. Okay. Now, after screening and to the publications, after screening the abstracts from the Scopus database, the 38 publications, we will finally selected which says something about implementation of blockchain solutions within healthcare. These publications were initially screened for the purpose of blockchain solutions, and initial research was conducted to determine the phase in which solutions is operating. Now, to determine the phases, we used the document Guide e-health implementation from the digital platform Care for Innovation. It's a Dutch platform which gives me information about the phases, the different phases of blockchain solutions. Now, to get answer the research questions, I collecting data about a number of publications in the past year. Starting point is selection from the Scopus database. Collected the data about the relevant research areas, starting the point of the Scopus database. And the document which I mentioned last, the guidance e-health implementation for innovation, I used the selected 38 publications for my research. Now, the adoption phases from Rushes I've used to get information about implementation of blockchain solutions in healthcare. And the research from Pesson, Chandler, and Cole and Stevens is used to see what initiatives can be related to blockchain solutions. Now, the last, which I mentioned, the TOE framework, which I used to identify the categorizing of the which field is more important for my research in relation to the adoption of blockchain. The results coming from the systematic literature review are 6. One, publications, citations, the research area, the research field, the phases of implementation, main initiatives, and the important factors in adoption of blockchain, technology, organization, and environment. Okay. Now, here you see the results of mine collecting data. Here you see the results I mentioned. If you related the number of citations to the number of publications each year, you will see a development in increasing of the impact of blockchain solutions. Also, the number of publications with the subject blockchain in healthcare is increasing starting the year 2017. You can see it in the charts I have presented here. Okay. To get more information about the research areas, I have filtered the selected number of 38 publications at the research area. The outcome of this table is that most of the selected publications have a relation to sharing data and sharing electronic health records. What you here see, this conclusion here is of this graphic is that the most of the publications are in journals with a technical or medical background. The most of the selected publications can also relate it to computer science. Thus, another conclusion is that social science, and especially publications which rely on the impact of organizations, are underrepresented. That's also why I do research on the organizational perspective, one of the factors. Okay, here you see what I told yet, that inside information that the selected publications have a relation, most of the selected publications have a relation to sharing of data and sharing of electronic health records. And there will be a bias in this table because of article about new citizenship where blockchain solutions is mentioned. You can see it on the last. Yes, but if you see this table, you can see that sharing data and electronic health records are the most important factors in the field of research. Okay. Now I've done a filtering on the phase of implementation and the main initiatives. Now, in the first table, you see the different phases of implementation. I've used the diffusion theory of rushes to select the different phases. This started with vision and strategy, planning, development, execution and evaluation, and scaling up. What you see is that the most of the selected 38 publications are doing research in the planning and development phase of implementation. There are a little of publications that have doing research by case studies in the phase of execution, evaluation, and scaling up. If you look at the table now, you see it also, this table 2, you see the most important initiatives where it's right in the publication. Most of the selected relevant articles have initiatives about the transaction between organizations. Disruptive initiatives within business models are or about the storage of information. So you see initiatives who have are important in the transaction between organizations, also important in the disruptive initiatives within existing business models, and are about the storage of information. And I have that done over 3 years, so you see a trend. Next, I've also done research to the important factors that are taken in consideration with the adoption of blockchain solutions. And these factors are technology, organization, and environmental, coming from the TUE framework. If you look to the technology, the ability of the technique of blockchain is an important consideration to implement blockchain. If you look to the organizational perspective, you see that organizational readiness is an important issue to take in consideration. At the level of environment, you see 3 aspects to take in consideration. These are the competitive pressure, from the surrounding, the rules and regulations from the government, and the dynamic of the markets. So this is the factors that will take in consideration with the adoption of blockchain from an organizational perspective. Now, in conclusion, the first conclusions I've made of this my systematic literature review and doing my research. Now, what you see is that both the size and the impact of the number of publications related to the implementation of blockchain solutions in healthcare are increasing. Yes, so impact and size. Two, the emphasis in the terms of research area is more technological than and less organizational. This is a gap. I've told you there's a gap in the literature about organizational perspectives on blockchain. Three, research fields such as data sharing and capturing healthcare data with blockchain are important in terms of size and impact. My four conclusion is that projects within healthcare are largely in the planning and development phase of implementation and not in the execution or scaling up phase. Five, conclusion from my SLR, systematic literature review, is that the disruptive modifications of existing business models, as well as improvements of transaction between healthcare organizations, are the main initiatives of blockchain solutions. And six, the availability, a technique, and the readiness of organization are important factors to take in account with the adoption of blockchain solutions. So I'm coming to further research. What's the effect of this SLR? Was doing this. Now, to doing first, I found a gap in the theory. The literature review shows that from an organizational perspective, little is known about what are important considerations for adopting blockchain as a technology to achieve digital transformation. Now, Classy and Acton also confirmed this in their study on the influence of organizational factors on blockchain adoption. Now, this will lead to 4 studies. The first study about the domain blockchain. This is the considerations of adoption. This is my systematic literature review I presented. And the second study is about the influence of digital transformation on organizational readiness in healthcare. Blockchain is a technique to realize a digital transformation, and I will know more about the organizational readiness perspective in healthcare. I have the research method I will use is qualitative research by case studies. The third study is about the effect of the impact of digital transformation and organizational readiness on the organizational capability. This research method is a qualitative research with an ethnographic technique. And the last study is about how to organize transformation to realize value-driven care. And the research method will be a case study with a World Cafe technique. This is the direction of my research for my PhD. And now the last screen, are there questions?
Okay, thank you.
Presentation.
Okay. Okay, I okay, now we have about 10 minutes for Q&A session. You can ask a question directly to the speaker or type in the chat box. It's up to you. Okay, John, could you please keep your slide sharing?
Yeah.
Especially in the conclusion slide. I think it's a quite nice conclusion. Maybe some of the audience will
I see a question. I have a question for what measures can organization with poor technology base, lack of awareness or a lack of technology among employees, unstable computer and internet system? take to adopt an advanced technology like blockchain? Yes, when there is there's a connection between several organizations in the health. You need a blockchain solution to make it efficient and effective. So yes, yeah, blockchain is adapted to advanced technology like blockchain, but most in the surrounding of working together with healthcare organizations, different healthcare organizations. So that's a question of about this. Ask about this question. My answer. Are there another question?
Okay, any other question? Okay, I also agree with your conclusion. I think in Vietnam, healthcare is also an area with great expectation for blockchain application.
Yeah.
But actually, I like the way you design your research very much.
Yeah.
I very tight logical research methodology, and
Yeah.
I think that many of my colleagues in Vietnam will learn how to organize your research from you.
Yeah.
Okay, but I just have one question. Could you please say more practical application in the medical field in New Zealand? Do you have any?
Yes, we have a practical one on the how to communicate, how to use blockchain to the payments of health.
Payment?
Yes, yes.
Not really now, right? It's actually it's a
Health
payment.
assurance companies in the Dutch, and to help blockchain with that to do the different kinds of payments. That's a solution which in a framework now to make it possible. But it's not in it's in a development phase. So not in the planning and development phase, not in the what I also say in my presentation. Most of the projects are in the development and planning phase, and not in the execution phase. And this is also this also solution which is not executed.
What about the electronic health record? Do you have any solution to keep the health record, medicine record, something like that? On
Yes, monitoring systems, which they bring it to the patient, bring the healthcare to the patient, makes possibilities for solutions for blockchain.
Yeah.
So to bring the healthcare to the patient, just healthcare not to monitoring healthcare from yes, to monitoring healthcare. It's possible to do it with blockchain, but at the house of where the patient is living, and so he doesn't come to the what you call there. I don't know exactly, but yeah.
Yeah, I do agree. Oh, Doc, you have some other question from
oh yeah.
You can read in the chat box.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
who must be included in healthcare blockchain? Who must be included in healthcare? Is that from the stakeholders, or I don't exactly what Debbie, what you mean? Who must be included in healthcare blockchain? You see it from the stakeholders perspective, or?
Yeah,
no, I'm from the university, Erlangga University, Surabaya, Indonesia.
Yeah.
I studied about blockchain for healthcare.
Yeah.
Must be included for the government policy also, because we have one national insurance for all the citizens.
Yes, we all will too. Yes, we must be included in healthcare blockchain, and I think
Also the pharmacy.
yes, you must take the connection with it. Yeah, not only to see it from one perspective, but to see it from several perspectives and different perspectives. So there must be more organizations must be open to blockchain solutions to take it into consideration and to make it work and to see the connection. If you have the connection between several organizations who participated in the health, yeah, you get a better use of blockchain. Blockchain is an inter-organizational system, so you must use it between. It gives you a better result if you use it between organizations than only stand alone. So it's not only the assurance company, but also a pharmacy and also the care companies must be included in it.
Also the government.
Yeah, that's the strong of yes, the strong of blockchain. See it from a inter-organizational perspective and not only from an organizational perspective. There I see a gap.
Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you. Is there any more questions about in healthcare area? Okay. Willing to send your slide to us?
Yeah, I will share it. Yeah, I will share it here on the screen. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay, maybe now I change to another topic. Just latest information about Vietnam. Okay, so as you may know, Vietnam is expecting digital transformation as a driving force to promote economic development. And digital transformation will be based on three pillars in Vietnam: digital government, digital economy, and digital society. And in which digital economy is the key point. In particular, blockchain is an important technology platform for digital transformation. Yes. And maybe I would like to move to the next presentation. We talk a lot about the blockchain. What is it? Where should it be applied? However, everyone knows that digital transformation does not start with the story of technology, but it must be started with the story of institutions and policies. This is especially important in the sustainable development of the economy. The next presentation hopes to outline the issue related to the recent government policy and institutional situation in Vietnam. It is my pleasure to introduce my two colleagues at the Banking Academy, Dr. Hồng Nghiên and Dr. Minh Phương. Okay, please go ahead.
Hello, my colleagues. Thank you for your introduction. That is exactly the thing I need to speak to the college here, and you are so kind. You talk it instead of me. Thank you for that. So now, can I share my screen?
Sure, please.
Yep. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much to give us the opportunities to be here to present about our topic related to the current regulation and supervision in banking digitalization in Vietnam. I hope that I can share something valuable for you related to the topic. And we are Hồng Nghiên Nguyễn and Minh Phương Nguyễn from Banking Academy of Vietnam and Banking Faculty. So the topic here is the regulation and supervision of banking digitalization in Vietnam. with the aim to reach the sustainable development in digitalization context, as Mr. Đức have said. So our topic will include three main parts. The first one is the reality of digital banking in Vietnam. The second one is the current issues for Vietnamese digital banking regulation and supervision. And the last but not least, it is some recommendation from to aim to reach the sustainable development in digitalization context. So now, as you see, first of all, I can share you here the reality of the digital banking operation in Vietnam. And as we know that the world is moving so fast, and with the higher customer behavior and expectation change, especially in the COVID-19, which has changed the awareness and gradually changed the habits of parts of Vietnamese people about the transaction on digital platform. Furthermore, we also have the new competitors from the banks, like a lot of banks, the commercial bank, and we have the new competitors like the financial technology company. It means that we, the banks, have no other choice to change with the unavoidable trend of digital economy. The question is, how is the potential of Vietnam for developing digital banking? Yes, actually, we have nearly 100 million population, and Vietnam's population ranks 15th in the world and the third in Southeast Asia, with 72% of population own smartphone, 150 million mobile phone subscribers, and 51 million mobile internet subscribers connect 3G and 4G. 64 million internet users accounts for 67% of the population. Meanwhile, the e-commerce grows rapidly, and Vietnam is the second largest digital economy in Southeast Asia and growing by 40%. So it means that Vietnam is a potential market and giving huge opportunities for digital banking development. Surprise. Okay. And how about the technical infrastructure so far? Currently, in terms of technical, we have 49 banks offer mobile banking, thousands of ATM, thousands of POS, 78 banks offer internet banking. So we have a lot. And nearly 100 fintech companies are operating mainly in the payment sector and followed by the personal finance, peer-to-peer lending. And currently 34 organizations have been licensed by the State Bank of Vietnam to provide the intermediary payment services. And here there are two trends in digital banking development in Vietnam. The first one is the traditional banks upgrade information technology infrastructure and apply digital technology to digital operation. The second one is the non-banks such as fintech company and large technology companies, with the advantage of them, so they will participate in the financial and banking sector. And in a survey of the State Bank of Vietnam in 2018, 81% of the credit institutions choose the model of cooperation between the bank and fintech company for future and mutual development. And And now, can I introduce you some results of the development in digital banking in Vietnam? Actually, we have a lot of progress here. For example, a lot of commercial banks, they offer the live bank, the digital life, the core bank, a digital bank application or virtual assistant chatbot. This graph shows you something very interesting. Here you can see that over 70% of credit institutions have the availability to implement from medium to very high technology. I'm sorry. For example, the mobile device technology. So here from medium to very high availability of the credit institution. About the open API, I think the same result here. Very good one. And about data analytics, we have a lot of credit institutions say that, yes, they have the availability to implement the high technology. But on the other hand, we still have a lot of challenges to face with the high technology. For example, the virtual reality technology here, virtual reality technology, and the augmented reality. So nearly, I think 54% of credit institutions have low availability for them. And about the Internet of Things, I think 50 credit institutions have low availability to adapt. And also the blockchain, I think it is quite very difficult topic, right? So nearly I think 49% of them say that they have low availability to adapt. Actually, we are not the experts from blockchain or Internet of Things as well. But fortunately, well, we have a lot of opportunities to work with the State Bank of Vietnam teams in the projects related to the regulation and supervision, the digitalization in the banking of Vietnam. So today, the main parts we would like to concentrate in the policy, which are implemented in Vietnam, and what is the challenges, what is the difficulties we still face with the policies. Now, firstly, can I review the current policies related to the topic? In terms of verified customer identification information, we have a decree of 87 and issued in 2019. And we have developed a circular amending the circular number 22 issued in 2014. About the clearing system, we have the circular 32 again, but issued in 2019 about the operation of 24/7 automatic clearing system for retail payment transaction. About the legal testing framework, we are researching to submit the government a trial legal framework, a regulatory sandbox in the banking sector. But actually we are researching only. About the technical standards and measures to ensure the security and safety when applying new technology. We have some decision, as you can see here, to manage the domestic standards of chip card, QR code, overall plan to ensure information technology, security and confidentiality. In terms of developing digital banking products and services, we have the non-cash payment. And actually, we are now receiving, we have built another one to replace the this decrease issued in 2012. And we have another circular 32 2014, as I mentioned above, to guiding the opening of payment account with customer identification by electronic method. So what is the issues for Vietnamese digital banking regulation and supervision? So far, in terms of legal framework, I can list here 4 difficulties. The first of all is the lack of general legal framework for digital banking, and I will have the more detail afterward. The next one is the regulation on the legality and use of electronic signatures. The third one is the legality of identifying customer by eKYC. And the last but not least, we will have the problem with the consumer protection and sharing customer data. And please note that this is the 4 main difficulties related to the regulation. We will mention the difficulties related to supervision in the next part. Now, firstly, to give more detail about the difficulty in regulation of digital banking in Vietnam. So the first one is the lack of general legal framework for digital banking operation. So it means that at that time, we had no regulation on digital banking in general, and especially in digital banking licensing, unfortunately. The second one is the concept of digital banking has not been mentioned in any current legal documents in Vietnam, except for fintech in the field of payment in laws of State Bank of Vietnam and another decree. The legal regulation do not allow the application of technology solution. What is it? What does it mean? I mean that the current demand for implementing and applying new fintech solution to banking activities such as eKYC or big data is huge, but the implementation of bank is still limited due to the regulation is incomplete. So I mean that the legal regulation of Vietnam do not go in line with the continuously developed and the change of modern technology, and making a lot of difficulties for the implementation of technology innovation, and even can create huge risks not only to the regulators but also the service provider, the customers, and the service users. The second one is the regulation on the legality and the use of electronic signature are not clear. Actually, the law on electronic transaction was issued 16 years ago. I mean that in the year 2005. So it means that the description of the electronic signature definition so far is not clear enough. And it doesn't cover the current issue like the digital signature or the electronic identification or the authentication. For example, in some article of that law, so we can see that now, for example, we have 2 levels of signature like electronic, basic electronic signature and electronic signature to ensure safety. But there is no conditions, no clear regulation on when or how to use the level of that electronic signature. About the third one, it is the legality of identifying customer by electronic method is incomplete too. I mean that the guiding documents on customer identification have not been adjusted to match and synchronize. And the database system for citizens is incomplete, and there is no mechanism for banks to perform online customer collation and verification. I mean the eKYC. The last but not least, I would like to mention that our regulation on protecting consumers and sharing customer data is not enough. It means that there are no clear regulation on the protection of the consumer interest of banking and finance products. Also, we have no regulation on the responsibilities of related parties in case the customer information leakage when providing services in the digital environment. So as you can see that with the kind of regulation, with the level of regulation like that, it is very difficult for digital banking of Vietnam can develop sustainably. Now, can I move to another difficulties in digital banking that is related to the supervision mechanism, the supervision here. And actually, we also have a lot of difficulty in supervision. It can be found that there are no regulation on supervision in banking digitalization. Maybe you can find something related to fintech only. Yes. And in fintech, you can find something related to the payment only. So in digitalization, it is very hard to find the regulation in supervision. Furthermore, we have no policies on specific function and duties of any state authority for digital banking activities. Especially for the operation of fintechs, it is very few regulation on a specific function. I also see that there is no coordination between authorities because you know that we need the cooperation between a lot of ministries to deal with the digital or the fintech, digitalization or the fintech. But up to now or so far, there is no coordination supervision between the authorities in this context. And the last but not least, there are no regulation on the organization structure of the specialized division that has the function to advise the authorities in digitalization supervision as well. With the difficulties like that, so we raise some recommendation for Vietnamese digital banking regulation and supervision to reach to the sustainable development for digitalization like that. So in terms of legal framework, so the first one we would like to raise some solution like we should develop a new decree on non-cash payment and provide detailed guidance on data sharing, information protection, customer data, and prevention of cybersecurity risks. We need to improving the law related to data security, ensuring information security, safety, and information protection, etc. The next one is in terms of developing instruction on electronic customer identification and eKYC, I think it is very important regulation we need to pay attention to, and we need to completing the legal framework for eKYC as well. Also, we need to develop regulation on the connection and exchange of information with the national database, and develop legal regulation on blockchain, because I think that blockchain is very important, because as we our colleagues just have mentioned, so in short term and in long term, we have, for example, the state bank in short term needs to allow some commercial banks to test blockchain technology application within the scope of that bank. And in the long term, we need to issue mechanism and policies to promote the application and deployment of industry technology, including blockchain technology in banking operation, building an overall legality for blockchain technology, solving the fundamental problem for blockchain about the legal recognition of data stored in blockchain, sharing of data in blockchain, or the legality of blockchain smart contract. I mean, it is in the long term, we have a lot of things to do. The next one about the open API. And I think open API is very important too. And to developing an API, so the bank can solve a lot of problems of diversifying financial services, accessing different customer files at the low expense, etc. So it is very important to have the legal framework for them. So in order to enhance the legal framework, I think we should amend the regulation on state confidential information in the banking industry, modify the regulations, allow third parties to access the relevant information with the customer approval, develop the regulation on requesting information provision and providing customer information, etc. Now, about the supervision, I think it is very important too. We have the legal framework, but it is not enough. We still need the supervision. I think the government should appoint a supervision authority for digital banking activities, because the current regulation have not appointed the responsibility for State Bank of Vietnam to guide, to expect, to supervise the digital activities. So actually the State Bank of Vietnam is very difficult to implement their function. So it is necessary to supplement and improve the state management, especially for the State Bank of Vietnam. And we should appoint the Ministry of Finance for cooperation and other ministries as well. And as the experience from other countries, the government needs to specify the rights and the responsibility of State Bank of Vietnam to handle the issues related to digital fields in banks. And we need to develop maybe one or more a specialized authority under which this unit is responsible for researching, advising, proposing authorities to issue management policies. Maybe we're receiving or apprising, proposing for approval to participate in testing mechanism of fintech, especially in digitalization in overall. This specialized authority can manage and supervise fintech activities or the other field, and to be the focal point for cooperation between the ministries, a lot of ministries in managing and monitoring cross-border fintech activities, digital activities with money authorities and central banks of the countries. So, dear my colleagues, that is the topic about the regulation and supervision related to the digitalization in Vietnam. I hope that to some extent I can bring some value information and you can know some more about Vietnam context. So if you have any question, in my ability, I will try to answer it. And give me comments as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Phương. I think it's a little bit long, but very interesting. Actually, you saw everything about Vietnam to our friends in abroad. Okay.
It is a big problem.
Okay, so do you have any question? Maybe I see one question from Dr. Hoàng Anh in the chat box. Check. Phương, can you see in the chat box?
Okay, yes. Yes, I got the question from Mrs. Hoàng Anh. Due to the incomplete legal framework in Vietnam, could you please tell me what is the risk? Yes, happen to commercial banks and customers in dealing with digital bank. Thank you for your question. I think it is very good question, and that is the reason why we have this topic, we have this presentation. Actually, because we see a lot of risks to the commercial banks and the customer, especially the customer, because that we don't have regulation. So who will protect the benefits of the customer? That is the question. So I think that without the regulation and supervision, a lot of stakeholders, not only the commercial banks, not only the customers, and also all the society will be affected to the risk. Anything else?
Is there anybody?
It's a very big topic here.
Okay. Yeah, not really a question, but I want to raise an issue in Vietnam to not only to Dr. Phương, Dr. Yến, or maybe other. There one thing in Vietnam, the sandbox regulation for fintech in Vietnam seems to be very, very slowly approved. I think the draft one has been submitted to the government by the SBV quite a long time. So in your opinion, why is approval so slow? Why the benefits, or we know about the benefits? So what information do you have anything about approval process or policy in other countries? I also like to hear about New Zealand, about Indonesia, about Russians. Do you have to process quicker or slow as Vietnam? For more than, I think, a year, 2 years, I don't know. Dr. Hồng Nguyễn, do you know any idea in your opinion?
Actually, I agree. I totally agree with you. And I know that about fintech, we have the sandbox regulatory, and it is nearly approved. But the process is very, very. Actually, it is because related to the coordination between the ministry. And when I interview my colleague in the project in digital and fintech, I think that we need to It is very hard to say here because we need to have the stronger pressure from the government. If not, you say that it is very difficult topic. So State Bank of Vietnam, in one hand, the ability to control it is not strong enough. On the other hand, they want to have the, the help, the coordination or the cooperation from the other ministry, and they don't want to do it alone.
Yeah.
So we need more the cooperation. So the story to bring the cooperation between the ministries here, I think we need the stronger pressure from the government to make it quickly. That is the real question. I asked my colleagues. They work for the sandbox regulatory.
Is some any sharing from other countries? Some guys from.
I think that in other countries, they develop and they assign firstly the strong pressure from the government. That one, and the second one is the regulation is very strong. In the mechanism for supervision, as I mentioned above, they appoint, for example, the central bank. They appoint the Ministry of Finance and a lot of other ministries like the Ministry of Science and Technology, the Ministries of Public Security to join. So I think with that cooperation, so everything will run smoothly and quickly. But in Vietnam, it is very hard to put all the things in State Bank of Vietnam. And they are not eager. It is not eager to take that a lot of pressure like that.
Okay, maybe this question is too large.
Too large, yes, I think so.
Waiting for some comment from other countries, from New Zealand or from Russian. Do you have any comment? Okay. Okay, Miss Diana, you want to say something?
Thank you for your question. Yes, I want to
Okay, I'm not hear you clearly. Okay, I think your microphone is mute already.
Yes.
Okay,
I have a question. Is there a problem with the interoperability with the digital system in Vietnam on fintech area? You said so much stakeholders are connected, but I think you have a problem with the interoperability. If you have a system like a fintech system. Is that true, or you did?
Can you clarify again, please? Can you clarify again?
Yeah, you say about the cooperation is not so well, and I think that if you have a system like blockchain, interoperability is very important to get the system of blockchain working. So I think what you said there, I mean, there's an interoperability problem. Is
so
that true?
who will take that responsibility to develop such a blockchain system like that?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Actually, in Vietnam, we just licensing for 34 company only, and we are not allowed the blockchain as blockchain.
Yeah.
Yes. So step by step, State Bank of Vietnam will review the effects of blockchain. Step by step, we will. Okay, so I will find the difficulties and and we are step by step. You see that, not quickly. So actually, that is the picture in Vietnam.
All right. Thanks for your answer. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's a lot of concern about this issue, but not easy to solve. Not like the technical issue. I think the regulation and the legal framework also very difficult, not only in Vietnam but also other countries. Maybe
I
think
can see here another question from Mrs. Quế. Right? While waiting for legal framework for banking digitalization from authorities, what do commercial banks of Vietnam need to do to safely manage their operation and keep up with global trends? Thank you for your question. Actually, I know a lot of commercial banks. For example, TP Bank, they have the Life Bank, and you know that when they run the operation independently without the regulation, so it is very risky for them. I think that it is very hard for them, and they have to face with the risk. Very hard for them, and at the moment, so far we have no regulation to protect them, unfortunately.
okay. So I think it's
Can I add something about this?
Okay.
Can I add something about this for this question of Ms. Quế?
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, can you hear? Yes. I think it's very good question. We think that many, we all know that many commercial bank to cooperate with the fintech company to improve their technology to cope with many modernization and digitalization finance products and services. As Ms. Phương says, of course, they have to face risk. But the State Bank of Vietnam, even though the State Bank of Vietnam, so that they have to they have to follow the commercial bank, and when the commercial bank face risk, and they have to instill some regulation to protect them. In Vietnam, some case, I think the State Bank of Vietnam is follow the commercial bank, and the commercial bank have to try first, and something they have to face risk, and they have to protect themselves, as Ms. Phương said. And related to the question about the question from Ms. Hoàng Anh, the commercial bank have to face many risks here. We all know that not only the risk in the payments, not only the risk in face for their customer, and even the risk of their reputation. Yes, the reputation of the commercial bank. So I think is the most important risk that the commercial bank may face. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think this maybe we can move to another issue, and I believe that's also very important, because we're talking about, come back to the story of the digital transformation. As you may know, perception play a crucial role in this transformation. The policy, we're talking about policy and the institutions for blockchain adoption. I think it's based on our knowledge about blockchain. Do we really understand and believe about what blockchain can bring to us, or we just vaguely expect the current and testing like blockchain? So I think that developing an epistemological modesty for sustainable blockchain development is really, really necessary at this point. And uh, now we listen from Mr. Chai Lin Lim from Southern University of Applied Science. Okay, I think your topic is must be very, very difficult to understand, but must be very interesting. We expect and waiting from you. Okay, please share your.
Thank you very much. I will share my screen.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Yes, I hope you're able to see my screen now. So the topic of today that I would like to talk about is how to develop the right attitude for sustainable blockchain development, and what this attitude actually means, and what how it looks like. This is something that is often overlooked when we discuss blockchain. Mainly when we discuss blockchain, we discuss the many possibilities from a business perspective. How disruptive can it be for society and all? But I believe that we should also look at what attitude we need to develop so that we can have, or that we can create an environment in which we can continue our development in a sustainable way. So I will skip this part of self-introduction. So if I ask my students what is most disruptive of Bitcoin and of blockchain, most of my students, they will say it's decentralization, or it's what's most disruptive is that we don't need third parties anymore. But maybe what is even more disruptive is something which I call epistemological. And it is as follows. So I believe that what makes Bitcoin so interesting and what makes blockchain so interesting is that it is not only a protest against the current financial system. Because if you look at Satoshi Nakamoto, I think it is quite clear that he invented Bitcoin as a protest against the current financial system, as an alternative to what happened in the financial crisis of 2008. So Bitcoin is also a protest against the intellectual establishment with its many theoretical assumptions of our economic reality. And this is a much bigger, much grander critique of our current financial system. The financial crisis has opened the eyes to some people that some classes of macroeconomic experts, for example, are not experts at all. In fact, these centralized clubs of experts like central bankers, government policymakers, banks, and so on, they are like the rest of us. We are all ignorant of the forces that shape our macroeconomic reality. And Bitcoin recognizes this ignorance of experts and offers us an alternative where there is no central body pretending to know how to set up our financial system. If you, for example, look at the European Central Bank, within the European Central Bank, we always say that we need to have moderate inflation. Let's say 2%, preferably a little bit less than 2%. But why 2%? Why not 2.5% or 1.5% or 0.75%? When I was an economics student, none of my professors could give me a reasonable answer. Why 2%? And I think it is very important that we can create financial systems that can compete with the current financial system, so that we can have some experimentation on some kind of free markets. And from this environment, we can find out what system would be the best. And at this moment, because we have a central bank that has monopoly over money production, we don't have a lot of experimentation going on. So if I continue, the economic social system in which we live is too complex for a central body to understand, which makes it impossible to organize our society in such a way that no undesired consequences will follow. As Friedrich Hayek, the very famous economist of the 20th century, wrote in the Constitution of Liberty, we should recognize the limits of our own knowledge regarding the organization of our society. And he said, no human mind can comprehend all the knowledge which guides the actions of society. If you again take the example of the government or the central bank, these are bodies who assume that they have so much knowledge of society that they can direct it. And this is also related to our discussion just then about regulations. I think it's okay to have regulations, but the regulations should happen in such a way that there's still enough innovation going on. There's still enough space for people to do experimentation. We should not think that we know everything. And because we know everything, we can direct regulations in such a way that people show the best behavior. I don't believe that we are that smart because society is too difficult to understand. So if I continue, Bitcoin capitalizes on this epistemological modesty in three ways. And with epistemological modesty, I mean the modesty in our own knowledge. So Bitcoin actually, in my opinion, is very disruptive because it says that maybe we don't know a lot about our society and how we should run a financial system. And Bitcoin capitalizes on this modesty in three ways. First, Bitcoin uses a decentralized network in which all individuals who wish to participate in Bitcoin's decision-making process, each possessing their own particular knowledge, participate in decision-making together. So instead of having central planners who will plan society, within Bitcoin, we have something really weird. It's like decentralized planning. Like people, they don't know each other, but somehow they can come up with new rules, new regulations within this ecosystem itself. Second, the Bitcoin code is open source, which is also interesting because if it's open source, it allows other people to look into the source code, to copy the source code, to do experimentations, and then to create their own coins or create their own blockchain ecosystems. Third, the market of money production has been freed and opened up. This is quite interesting. I think it is quite important for us to have an environment in which we have a bit more free markets, a bit more experimentation going on. Because in general, if you study economics, we always say that monopolies is very bad because within a monopoly, we don't have enough innovation and the monopolist can charge high prices. Well, if we say that, if that's general knowledge within economics, why do we accept monopoly over money production of governments or monopoly of money production by the central banks? Does it mean that a decentralized network in which consensus must be reached will always lead to the right decisions? No, absolutely not. However, the Bitcoin code is open source so that others can easily view, copy, and edit the source code at their own discretion, so that experimentation with other, perhaps better forms of cryptocurrency and other forms of consensus can arise. And the topic of today is a bit philosophical. And if you look at philosophy, there are different branches. You have metaphysics, you have ethics, politics, aesthetics. What I focus on is the fifth branch, which is called epistemology. Within this branch of philosophy, we focus on what is knowledge? What do we know? What can we know? What's the right way to conduct science? And my argumentation in this talk runs as follows. If we look at the current situation in the blockchain space, we can see that it is developing rapidly. And the assumption I make here is that an environment in which people can experiment freely is most conducive for further development. Because with new experimentation, we can get new solutions that we didn't think about before. And the question that I'm asking in this talk is, well, if we know that such an environment would be most conducive for further development, which attitude is the most conducive? So which attitude should we develop? And my thesis is that we should hold a certain epistemological attitude. And this attitude consists of the following things. First of all, we need to cultivate something like a sociological imagination. We need to be epistemologically modest. So we need to be modest about what we know and what we can know. Society is extremely complex, and it's very difficult to understand what actions or what regulations will lead to what results. The third thing is we need to realize that social order can emerge spontaneously. And the fourth aspect is that the utopian dream of a solitary, perfect blockchain ecosystem is impossible. So now I will quickly run through those four aspects of this epistemological attitude. First, the situation, blockchain space is developing rapidly. Well, you can see that expressed in its market capitalization. It has grown a lot. If you look at well, the value of the coins, value of a lot of blockchain ecosystems, there are thousands of projects happening. And I have made the assumption that the wild, wild west of blockchain environment has led to rapid innovations, and this has given impetus by the open source nature of many blockchain projects. And also because there's very little regulations, a lot of experimentation has been happening. I cannot talk about Vietnam because I don't know the case over there. But if I look at Europe and the western part, because there's not so much regulation here, we can see so many new projects springing up. And then since last year, with the implementation of AMLD5, Anti-Money Laundering Directive 5 in the Netherlands, so new regulations which made it more strict for exchanges to hold coins and to exchange coins. Within a month, more than 12 cryptocurrency or blockchain companies left the Netherlands, or they just died out. So the question, which attitude is most conducive for further development in the blockchain space? And I believe that this attitude consists of the following four aspects. And the first aspect is sociological imagination. So I think that we need to realize that we are limited by the imaginative tyranny of the present. If you, for example, look at how people used to talk about the internet in the 1990s, a lot of people could not predict that the internet would have such an important effect on their lives. I remember an interview of I think it was of David Letterman interviewing Bill Gates, and he asked Bill Gates, "Why do we even need the internet?" And Bill Gates said, "Well, if you use the internet, it's easy to get easier access to more information." And Letterman said, "Well, but if I want to get new information, I just watch TV. I just watch the news. I just read newspapers." Well, this shows us that it's very difficult back then to imagine the ways that the internet has opened up our information systems. And I think the same thing is happening within the blockchain space. We're still at the start of this new era of blockchain, and it's very difficult for us to predict now what the future applications will be that will radically change our lives. But I'm quite sure that that will happen, that blockchain technology will be used in so many ways that we cannot predict right now, but that will heavily influence our lives. So new technologies provide new opportunities and new ways in which we can organize businesses and societies. And we need to look beyond the status quo. We should cultivate a sociological imagination to look for new possibilities. Well, C. Wright Mills, he's a sociologist / philosopher. He wrote the following quote about sociological imagination. He says that if you want to cultivate this imagination, you need to cultivate your mind in such a way that your mind is like a moving prism that catches light from as many angles as possible. So it is important that we look at blockchain ecosystems, blockchain projects, not just from one perspective. It's important that we look at it from a holistic perspective, from regulatory perspective, from the technical perspective, but also from the human perspective, from a philosophical perspective, from a business perspective. The second aspect of this epistemological attitude is epistemological modesty. So I believe that we need to realize that the intellect is very fallible, and that we should realize that we should know how little we know, so that we can prevent ourselves from falling into dogmatism. And this aspect of epistemological modesty rests on the principle of fallibility. This principle says that we are fallible, we make mistakes. And it's okay to make mistakes, but we need to be able to admit that. The second principle that epistemological modesty rests on is rational discussion. It's that knowing that we don't know everything, knowing that our mind is fallible, it is very important that we have an environment in which we can discuss things with each other, in which we can have free discussions, conversations on a rational basis. Because only through discussions, only by me discussing with you guys and you telling me I'm wrong and why I am wrong, only then I can learn from you and you from me. The third aspect of epistemological modesty is the principle of approximation of truth. What I see happening a lot is, and when I'm looking at when I look at academia, is that a lot of people within academia, they like to prove that the theory is right. But I believe that that is the wrong way of approaching science, of approaching new knowledge. We should not try to prove that a theory is right. Instead, we should try to prove that a theory is wrong. And as long as we cannot prove that it is wrong, then a theory is strong. So this is a different way of looking at how we should approximate the truth. And to sum this up, I would like to make a reference to Socrates. Now, Socrates is one of the most famous philosophers of ancient Greece. He's also seen as the founding father of Greek philosophy. Socrates, he said, "I am the wisest man alive, for I know one thing, and that is that I know nothing." And I think it's good for us to be a little bit more like Socrates, that we should realize and admit that, maybe we don't know a lot, maybe we know very, very little. The third aspect of this epistemological attitude is to realize that social order can emerge spontaneously. So an epistemologically modest person, he can consider it possible that a social order, radically different from anything we know, can emerge spontaneously. If we are to have any governmental regulations at all, I believe that regulators should behave epistemologically modest and that they should work like piecemeal engineers. And what does a piecemeal engineer do? A piecemeal engineer improves organizations, we improve societies through small adjustments and readjustments, knowing that interventions can lead to unintended consequences. So something that we did really badly in the Netherlands, I think, is that we implemented AMLD5 last year, and immediately so many blockchain companies went away from the Netherlands. That is really bad. So where did they go to? They go to Estonia, they go to other countries with fewer regulations. Instead, what the Netherlands should have done, I think, is to implement little incremental changes within the law as means of experimentation and see what the effects will be on this blockchain space, instead of immediately doing very strict regulations. The epistemologically modest person knows that we cannot predict what spontaneous experimentations and organizations will emerge. Okay, now I go to the fourth aspect of this attitude, and it is that the utopian dream of a solitary perfect ecosystem is impossible. We live in a society of plural values. I have different values than all of you, and you have different values than your friends, your neighbors, your families. So how do we deal with this? Well, one way in which we have tried to deal with it in the West is by implementing a political system that we call democracy. Because with democracy, we can all have a say about who can represent us. So a democracy is just a way to appease conflicts that may arise from plural values. But I'm not sure whether democracy is the best way. And I think that what we should develop is some kind of big ecosystem or meta regulatory framework that allows people to experiment with new ways of living. So we should look at something which I call meta-utopia. A meta-utopia is a meta system, is from meta system level, is explained by Nozick in the following way. So Robert Nozick, he's a very famous philosopher of the 20th century. He says that utopia will consist of utopias of many different and divergent communities in which people can lead different kinds of lives under different institutions. Some kinds of communities will be more attractive to most than others. Communities will wax and wane. Utopia is meta-utopia, the environment in which utopian experiments may be tried out. The environment which must, to a great extent, be realized first if more particular utopian visions are to be realized stably. So what Robert Nozick envisioned is like a meta-utopian system in which people can create their own societies. So here you have, for example, a society that is democratic, a society with a dictatorship, society with communism, and here another society. And as long as people are free to move between these different societies, then we can finally find out which rules, which regulations are most conducive to human life. Because imagine that this dictatorship is not doing very well. And if people are free to move from one place to another place, then people will naturally go away from this place, for example, to a communist society, or to a socialist society, or to a democratic society. And this dictatorial society will then wax and wane. It will die out. But taking this insight from Robert Nozick, I think we can say that it is important to have some kind of meta-utopian regulatory framework in which we allow people to experiment with all different kinds of blockchain ecosystems. So imagine that this green ecosystem is the Bitcoin ecosystem, and this one is the Ethereum one, and this one is one with the central bank digital currencies, and this one is, I don't know, Cardano, and this one is a secret network. As long as they allow people to move away from their own blockchain to another blockchain, we can have experimentation, and then we can see which rules, which regulations are good, which ecosystems are bad, and those two that are bad will probably die out by themselves. And this goes against the idea of one chain to rule them all, or one big framework, one big strong regulation that everyone has to abide to. It is antithetical to the idea of open source, decentralization, and free markets. So if you, for example, look at the Bitcoin space, you see a lot of Bitcoin maximalists. A Bitcoin maximalist is someone who says that the Bitcoin blockchain, the Bitcoin ecosystem is the best. Everything else is a scam or sucks. So central bank digital currencies sucks. It's a scam. Ethereum is a scam. Secret network ecosystem is a scam. The best ecosystem is the Bitcoin ecosystem. They believe that we should have one chain, one blockchain, which will rule the whole blockchain space. But this idea is very antithetical to open source, to decentralization, to free markets. And it also disregards human diversity, and it disregards our society of plural values, because everyone has their own values. And maybe someone feels much more comfortable to be in a different ecosystem than a Bitcoin ecosystem. So open source, decentralization, and free markets, the things that are conducive for experimentation and innovation within the blockchain space, dictate that there will not be just one chain or one coin that rules that space. And that brings me to the following thing. What I believe in very strongly is some kind of internet of blockchains. I think it would be really cool if we can connect different kinds of ecosystems together. And there are two projects right now that are quite big that are actually trying to do this. The first one is the Cosmos, and the second one is Polkadot. So right now you have the Bitcoin ecosystem, which is very solitary. And then you have the Ethereum ecosystem, which is also very solitary. They cannot connect with one another. There's no interoperability at all. And then you have Cardano, and you have another one. But if we would like to create an environment in which people can experiment and then move from one ecosystem to another ecosystem very easily, it would be advised if you can connect all of these ecosystems together. And this is what Cosmos is trying to do. With a new protocol they just released last month. It's called inter-blockchain communication. And Polkadot is also working on this. So, in short, to summarize what I have just discussed, my argumentation again, my argumentation ran as follows. The situation is that the blockchain space is developing rapidly. I assume that we need more experimentation. We need to create an environment in which people can experiment freely, because such an environment is most conducive for further development. The question I had in this talk is, well, which attitude then is most conducive? And the thesis is that we should hold a certain epistemological attitude. We should develop it. And this attitude consists of a sociological imagination, knowing that we are very limited by the tyranny of our own imagination at this moment. Second thing is we should be more epistemologically modest. We should realize that we actually don't know a lot. And because we don't know a lot, let people free, let people try to experiment with new blockchain ecosystems as much as possible, because from this environment, we can have new solutions that we never thought about before. The third aspect of this attitude is realization that social order can emerge spontaneously. And the fourth aspect is that a solitary perfect blockchain ecosystem is impossible. It is best to allow people to create their own ecosystems and allow them to move from one chain to another chain. So let's not be a maximalist. Let's not say that one way of doing things in the blockchain space is the best way. There are many ways to roam, many ways to develop a better society. This was in short my talk. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lian. Yeah, one chain to rule them all. I like it. I like your problematic approach. I think it's really difficult for us to understand everything. I'm not sure I can understand everything, but I feel very interesting. I remember that my child time, I dream about utopian country, and now you bring me up to my dream during the child time about the okay. The Q&A section. Is there anybody want to ask philosopher about anything about the blockchain again? Actually, I myself agree with you that the blockchain perception will determine our attitude and the way we react with the society. However, I think the question is like philosophy thing. Who are we? Who are we? You look at blockchain from the philosophical point of view. I, in the IT point of view, I focus on the technology. But everything depends not on you and me, but depend on the policy maker, right? I find very difficult to persuade the top leader of my university, of my country, to study, to do research and understand the whole thing about blockchain. And I feel the story is stuck here. I don't know whether if anybody can comment about your thing. Ah, I see one question from in the chat box. Can you refer to that?
Yeah.
From yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much for very complicated topic. I think that related to the blockchain philosophy. I try to understand this, and I think that we might see the difference in attitude to blockchains and Bitcoin among the different countries. For example, in the case of our country, Vietnam, the Vietnamese government is very, very careful in dealing with that kinds of blockchains, and especially in the case of Bitcoin. At that times, we have no regulations on the Bitcoin, and we see the Bitcoins like a commodity, not like a money, a currency. So we might see that a government might be from my idea, from developed country is willing to deal with and apply it in the activity and in the governance activity. However, the other country, for example, the case Vietnam, might be very careful to look at this. Okay, so could you explain the reasons behind the different attitude among the governments in the world?
I think that's a very good question, and I also don't have a very good answer why some governments choose to be more liberal in this space and some governments choose to be more restrictive. But I believe that in general we can say that cryptocurrencies and the blockchains in general they produce a huge threat to the government, because the power over money is extremely powerful. If you have power over money, you can create bubbles, you can create economic crisis, and you know there is this concept. It's called the Cantillon effect, and according to this Cantillon effect, whenever a government or central bank creates new money in the ecosystem, this money is not diluted equally throughout all of society. The money first goes into the hands of the financial system, so the big banks, the government, and it always takes a few years before this money trickles down to the normal people. But let's say this money trickles down to the normal people 3, 4, 5 years later. There's already inflation that set in. So when the normal people get the money, we can spend the money against lower value because the purchasing power is already decreased. And because of this big power difference, I think that a lot of governments they are afraid to lose power over money. This is my view of why a lot of governments are against it. And I don't know why some governments then are still very liberal. Like Estonia is quite liberal, but there are very few countries. My guess is that the countries that are very liberal about this is because they see this as a way to become more to gain a competitive advantage. But yeah, I don't know. It's difficult to say.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay, I think you have announced a very interesting question.
Okay, we see blockchain technology has many advantages. So can you give an argument to convince governments in developing countries willing to deal with and apply blockchain in their activities? I have my own blockchain project within Cambodia. I'm originally from Cambodia, so my blockchain project is called Surrey, and what we do is something that the government may not like a lot. So I have maybe a little bit of experience in this. Okay, I can share you my personal experience. Is that within Cambodia, the Cambodian government has decided to shut down several news agencies because these news agencies, they were producing news against the government. So from one day to another day, these news agencies received a fine from the government saying, you forgot to pay us taxes. You forgot to pay us 5 million in taxes. Of course, these news agencies couldn't pay that, and then they went bankrupt. And this is how they actually regulated or infringed freedom of speech in Cambodia. This hurt me. So I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to create a social media in Cambodia, and everything that they post on the social media will be stored on the blockchain. And because it's stored on the blockchain, it's immutable, it cannot be destroyed anymore, it cannot be censored anymore. In this way, I can promote freedom of speech. But of course, the Cambodian government doesn't like this. So how do I deal with this? what I tell the government is we are not here to allow people to talk bad, but what we use, if we just use a system that will improve Cambodia, because within our system, when people can post things and then they can get into discussion with each other, we can stimulate the intellect in Cambodia. So you try to phrase things in a different way that makes it look like it improves society that the government can agree with. This is something that you need to consider when you want to convince governments in developing countries, because at least if I look at Cambodia, I see that they're really afraid of cryptocurrencies. It's even illegal to trade in Bitcoin. Yeah, this is how we try to convince governments to allow us. And we never talk about freedom of speech in Cambodia. We always say that within the Saray platform, people can engage in discussions, and therefore we can have more knowledge in Cambodia, and we can become a better society. By the way, Cambodia has their own central bank digital currency. Our developers from Saray, we also worked on that. And the reason why we worked on it is because it is in our values to create more financial inclusion. And we believe that that if the central bank can create financial inclusion through blockchain technology, then why should I not just help them developing it? So that's why we have the Balkan project. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for your answer. I think that we're looking for next year to see what happened about blockchain in. Okay, that's really positive thinking. Okay, I think maybe we passed the time already, right? Yeah. Okay. We intend to stop at 6:30, but actually now is 10 to 7 already. Maybe I go to the conclusion, and we should stop the discussion today. I think sustainable development in the digital context is a big challenge for every country, while big or small, developing or developed already. Blockchain as well as a technology in the fourth industrial revolution as expected to the driving force for development of the economy. And I think our topic, only three presentation, but we draw something in general about our attitude, knowledge about the blockchain in the different point of view. On behalf of organizers, I would like to thank the three speakers. And I think this conference is just a starting point for our opportunities for cross-border cooperation between New Zealand, Russian, Vietnam, as well as Indonesia. And hopefully the speaker will send us the slides. Dr. Chai Lin Lim, we hope to receive a lot of interesting in your slide. And we can connect together through email. And thank you very much of you, and hope you have good health, and maybe see you in the another conference. Maybe I would like to ask you to make a photo section. Can you turn on your camera, and we can take one picture together. Okay, please. Okay, very nice. Please, some other. I'd like to take one picture in general. Okay, please. Thank you very much, Dr. Ngọc. Okay, anyway, we try my best. Okay, smile, please. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Wang Anh and Dr. Ngọc, do you want to have any other words to conclusion? Okay, so thank you very much and goodbye for now and hope to see you tomorrow. Okay.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Xin chào.
Bye-bye.
Dr. Duc Pan Tan, can I ask you something?
Yeah.
I think it would be really interesting to have a better cooperation between us. So
Yeah.
if I would like to contact you and the other staff members from your university, what is the best way for me to proceed?
Yeah, anyway, I can send you my WhatsApp, or now I send you direct my email and WhatsApp and Bible, whatever. Okay, can I write down my email address?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I sent to everyone here.
Thank you very much. And I will also write down my email address for the other people who would like to connect with me.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I really like your presentation.
Well, thank you. It is different. Normally, I always talk from a technical perspective, but this time I thought it's nice to do a philosophical perspective.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you.
Just take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.